All right, peace, y'all, and greetings. This is Empress Coach Rena Nicole of RenaNicole.com, Sustainable Relationships Divine Intervention Show and podcast, and also the Love Experiences in the Curve.net. With that being said, this is our weekly Reframing the Mind our self development programs that we have weekly. I am a certified coach 5 times over. So I use these tools and skill set to help other people develop their lives so they can live more optimal and more wellly. Unlike the first portion of the channel where you experience our AM show, inspiration show to wake that ass up, this is literally a weekly room, and I promise that I will record it on the podcast. So this is officially our first divine intervention show podcast in a very long time. Now, today the topic is decluttering the mind, reframing automatic thoughts, part 5. If you are anywhere and you want to come to the stage, simply raise your hand or utilize the chat and share the space. Shares are free 99. They don't cost you a thing but a tap of the finger. Now let's get into it. Now, there's this quote by Marcus Aurelius, and it goes, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, your way of thinking. Okay? So it gets into and it goes into asking you, have you ever felt overwhelmed by your thoughts? Do you struggle with stress or anxiety about the tasks you need to complete on a weekly basis? So we all experience negative thinking from time to time. But if you often feel overwhelmed by these thoughts, then you should closely examine what you're thinking and how your thoughts impact your mental well-being. The inner monologue is a natural part of our mental landscape. It's there all of the time, night and day, reminding us about the groceries we need to pick up, shaming us about missing our sister's birthdays, or making us feel anxious about current headlines like politics, the environment, and current states of affairs, okay? Like the economy. Now, these thoughts are inherently the background noises of our existence. Even though we may not always be aware of their constant presence, if you stop right now while I'm speaking and you take a second and pay attention to your thoughts, then try to stop them, it's going to be extremely difficult to do so. So you'll see how they'll keep streaming in one after another, unbidden and unwanted often. Okay. So a lot of the thoughts that we have are random and useless, like, my arm itches, or it looked like it's going to rain, or hey, where did I put my keys? On the other hand, many of our thoughts are intrusive and low vibrational, like, hey, that guy's a jerk, or I really screwed up that project, or hey, I feel so guilty about what I said to mom. Whether they are low vibrational, neutral, or high vibrational, these thoughts clutter our minds. Just like our homes and our environments can become cluttered when we have way too many possessions. Unfortunately, clearing your mental clutter isn't as simple as eliminating a possession. You can't throw away a thought and expect it to stay gone. In fact, like a new never ending game of whack a mole, our automatic thoughts have a way of popping back up as soon as you slap them down. Okay? So let's get into why we may think low vibrational thoughts. So, if you take a moment to imagine your mind is a fully organized home, a home that is free from extraneous, draining, and useless items that agitate you, what if you could surround yourself only with things that uplift you, inspire you, and soothe you? Now, considering that for a moment, your mind as a peaceful, cloudless sky, and you have the power to choose what float to cross. If that cloudless mental sky is so desirable, then why do we think so much? With so few filters to sort through the positive and necessary thoughts from the random and unnecessary. Hmm. So let's get a little more deeper into it, okay? Our brain contains about 100 billion neurons, with another billion in our spinal cord. The total number of connections between neurons the cells responsible for processing, has been estimated at 100 trillion synapses. Okay? Our powerful brains are constantly processing all sorts of experiences and analyzing them in the form of thoughts. Thoughts form what we perceive to be our reality. Okay? We can control and direct our thoughts. Just keep that in mind. And it often feels like our thoughts have minds of their own, controlling how we may feel. Thinking is necessary for solving problems, analyzing, making decisions, and planning. But in between the time of proactive mental endeavors, the mind roams like a wild monkey, dragging you through the brambles of rumination and low vibration. Okay? So our constant inner dialogues distract us from what is happening around us right here and now. It doesn't keep us present. Like I said before, it's my firm belief, and I do feel like I'm qualified to say this, that the more that we live in the past, the more we feel depressed. And the more we hyper focus on the future, the more we feel anxiety. If that makes any sense. And it's just like we're not in the present and we feel out of control. And it's that grasp to control things, to you know, um, redo things, to relive things, and it just is out of our control and it causes mental disease. Okay. So, um, absurdly, we assume we need to think more and harder in order to figure things out, while we aren't as fulfilled as we wish we could be. Okay. We often try to pinpoint the possessions, people, and experiences they may quench out longings and ease our unhappiness, or the lack of fulfillment. Okay. The more we ponder our despair, the more despondent we become. Like I literally, just went into detail on. Our thoughts make us restless, empty, agitated as we project onto the future or look into the past for answers. See what I mean? It's just like we can't remain present and just realize this is our reality. Where do I go from here? We're too nostalgic about the past, and we're too hyper focused in the future, and we skip over the moment that we're in. And this is when our thoughts just gain precedence over us and they start to take over. If that makes any sense at all to you. Okay? So you have to keep that in mind. Oh, I had to take a second to drink some water, excuse me. Now, every negative thought that we have relates to the past or future. Okay? It's extremely common to find yourself in a looping cycle of regretful thinking or worrying thoughts, even while feeling desperate to escape the never ending tape playing in our minds. Okay? So, not only do we struggle with our thoughts, but we also struggle with our inability to be free of them. Period. Okay? The longer the negative thoughts continue to loop, the worse we feel. It's almost as if there were two people existing, the thinker and the judge. The person thinking the thoughts and the person aware that you are thinking them and judging how bad they are. See? It's like you can't win for losing when it comes to automatic thoughts. Um, this thinking and judging dynamic affects us with painful emotions. The more fearful, guilt ridden, regretful thoughts we have, the more stressed, anxious, depressed, and angry we tend to feel. Okay? Our thoughts paralyze us with bad feelings, and it's those feelings that rob us of inner peace and contentment. If that makes any sense at all. So, although our thoughts are the culprit responsible for so much distress, we assume that there's not much that can be done about it. We assume that we can't stop the mind from thinking, right? That we can't shut off our brains at will and rid ourselves of mental chatter and associated feelings that prevent us from enjoying life fully. Okay? These are things that we assume, right? So occasionally we have unexpected moments of that mental peace and quiet. More often, though, we try to quell the mental chatter by self medicating with too much food, alcoholic beverages, drugs, work, energy transfers, aka sex, or exercise. These things are all often temporary solutions to muffle the noise and ease the pain. Soon enough, our thoughts are back at it again, and the cycle continues. And sometimes people even have the thoughts during those acts, and they're not even be able to follow through with them. Or they just do even more and more and more and more and more, and they just realize that no matter what I do, these thoughts are still running rampant. These thoughts are still in control. Okay, so I had to throw that out there. So it basically, like, it's like, are we destined to become victims of our crazy minds all the time, or our cluttered minds all the time? Excuse me. So battling our thoughts and allow them to drag us down with worry. Is that like our reality? Regret and anxiety. You get what I'm saying? So there is a way for us to handle that. And although we may not be able to keep our mental house free from clutter all the time, we can impact our thoughts enough to improve the quality of life and overall happiness in a profound way. So thinking may seem automatic and uncontrollable, but many of our thoughts patterns are habitual and, well, thoughtless. They're basically thoughtless. So although it appears that you and your thoughts are inseparable, you do possess a conscious self that can step in with intention and manage your thoughts. Okay. Now, you have far more control of your thoughts than you think. When you learn how to control your mind, you open the door to the vastness of creativity, inspiration, and brilliance that is just behind the clutter of those untamed thoughts, if that makes any sense. So basically, through various forms of mindfulness and practical habits, you can disempower those thoughts and have more space in your mind to enjoy inner peace and contentment. So you'll have the clarity to prioritize what's most important to you and your existence, and what no longer serves your goals and how you want to exist on a daily basis. Now, let's get right into decluttering the mind, okay? So it's important to recognize, like, what's decluttering the mind, how can we reframe, and what tools can we use to declutter the mind, okay? So let's get right into decluttering the thoughts. Let's get right into the four causes of mental clutter, and that's all we're going to cover today, is the four causes of mental clutter, and then we'll see you next week for the next part, okay? So let's go over this quote by Bruce Lee, okay? It's this quote by Bruce Lee, and it goes, "It's not a daily increase, but a daily decrease the heck away at the inessentials," okay? Now, the number one cause of mental clutter is stress, daily stress, okay? Just to throw it out there in case you didn't recognize, or in case you weren't self aware that the cause of mental clutter is daily stress. Okay? An excessive amount of stress is the primary reason many people feel overwhelmed by life. Okay? Stress created by information overload. People are like, download this and information that, and they just don't know how to stop themselves. Just stop already. You're giving me mental clutter thinking about it. Okay? um, Physical clutter and endless choices required from these things can trigger an array of mental health issues like generalized anxiety, panic attacks, and depressions. Okay? So, couple that stress with legitimate worries and concern in your existence, and you may find yourself with sleep problems, muscle pains, headaches, chest pains, frequent infections, and stomach and intestinal disorders. Okay? And this is according to the American Psychological Association. Okay? Not to mention dozens of studies supporting the connection between stress and physical problems. Even us, we constantly have rooms, talking about how stress affects the body and different things of that nature. Okay, to be absolutely clear, is right now almost 2:30. So, now Dan Harris is the ABC News anchor and the author of the book 10% Happier. Oh, excuse me. He didn't acknowledge how stress of the mental overload was impacting him until he had a full-blown panic attack on national television. Could you imagine? Now, his demanding and competitive job which took him in the front lines of Afghanistan, Israel, Palestine, and Iraq, had left him depressed and anxious. He self medicated his internal pain with recreational drugs, triggering the on air attack. After meeting with his doctor, Dan had a wake up call about his mental state. Okay? And he went on to say this: as I sat there in his office, the sheer enormity of my mindlessness started to seep in. From mm, hurtling headlong into war zones without considering the psychological consequences, to using drugs for a synthetic squirt of replacement adrenaline. It was as if I had been sleepwalking through a cascade of moronic behavior. One more time. He said, it was as if I had been sleepwalking through a cascade of moronic behavior. Okay. So, Dan's quote unquote moronic behavior was simply a human reaction to everything that was happening in his head. When this has become so intense and complicated, our psyches search out escape ramps. Too much input, too much low vibrational exposure, and too many choices can trigger a not so healthy coping response. Okay. The number two reason for mental clutter is the paradox of choice. Okay. So we're going to get right into that in 1 second. Just give me a second. Okay. So the cause two is the paradox of choice. Now, the freedom of choice is something revered in free societies. It can have a diminishing point of return when it comes to mental health. Now, the paradox of choice is summed up that increased choices lead to greater anxiety, indecision, paralysis, and dissatisfaction. More choices might afford objectively better results, but they won't make you happy. Okay, so let's go over this part real quick because this gives me anxiety every single time I think about it. So, according to Food Marketing Institute, in 2014, there were 42,214 items carried in the average supermarket. What once it might have been a 10-minute excursion to grab the necessities now requires at least that much time to agonize over the best brand of yogurt and the right gluten-free crackers. Now, think about trying to purchase a pair of jeans, the staple of most wardrobes. You'll be faced with an endless array of decisions: baggy fit, boot cut, skinny, wide leg, vintage wash, button fly, and zipper. A simple purchase is enough to make you hyperventilate. Okay, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, and even former President Obama made the decision to limit their clothing option to minimize feelings of being overwhelmed from making decisions. In an article from Michael Lewis from Vanity Fair, the ex-president explained the logic behind his limited wardrobe selections. Former President Obama said, "You see, I only wear gray or blue suits. I'm trying to pare down decisions. I don't want to make decisions about what I'm eating or wearing because I have too many other decisions to make." Okay? So number two was the paradox of choice. That's the reason why your mind is cluttered. Now, number three is too much stuff. Okay? Our home environments are filled with clothes we never wear, books we never read, toys that are unused, and gadgets that don't see the light of day. Our computer inboxes are overflowing, our desktops are cluttered, and our phones are flashing messages like, "You need more storage, bro." Okay? You know, we have become such slaves to our gadgets that we rather have quick fixes instead of um, a quick fix of instant information or entertainment over real world interactions and experiences. Okay? With this constant flow of information and access to technology, becoming mass consumers of things and data is easier than ever. With this constant flow of information and access to technology, becoming mass consumers of things and data is easier than ever. At the click of a button, we can order anything from a book to a motorboat and have it delivered to our doorsteps. It's that easy, you know. So while we're filling our homes with things we don't need and filling our time with a steady stream of tweets, updates, articles, blog posts, and cat videos, information and stuff is piling up around us. Yet we feel helpless to do anything about it. All this extraneous stuff and data not only sucks up our time and our productivity, but also produces reactive, anxious, and negative thoughts. Let's go over some negative thoughts that produces by being having overexposure to things. Okay, quote unquote, my Facebook friend looked like she's having a life, a happy life. That's the thought. And then the thought behind that is, oh, my life sucks. You know what I mean? The next thought would go, should I buy a Fitbit and start tracking my health so I don't die too early? That's not good. Or oh no, I forgot that how to make a million before you're 30 webinar. What if they share something that's really important? The issue lies in this, okay? Everything seems important and urgent. Every email and text must be answered. Every latest device or contraption must be purchased. And this keeps us constantly stirred up with busy trivialities and detached from the people around us and feelings, that may reside within us. We often feel like we don't have time to declutter homes because we're too busy consuming new stuff and information. At some point, all of this busyness is leading us to mental and emotional exhaustion. As we process everything coming at us, we analyze, ruminate, and worry ourselves to the breaking point. Okay? Now, think to yourself, how have we even lost sight of the values and life priorities that once kept us balanced and sane? What can we do about it? What we can't go back in time and live without technology. We can't renounce all of the worldly possessions and dwell into a cave. We have to figure out ways to live in the modern world without losing our sanity. Period. Point blank, period. We just do. Okay, so by decluttering our stuff and cutting back on time spent with our digital devices, it helps us eliminate some of the anxiety and low vibrational thinking. Okay, this is my firm belief that comparison is the theft of joy. This is why it's not wise to compare yourself, but this is also wise. It's best to monitor your usage on social media. You know, um, because not only do you compare yourself to others, sometimes if you're on spaces where you're speaking, you may compare others to your life, and like they have to live up to your standards and your boundaries and different things like that, and it's just not okay. Okay, so we worry about our health, our jobs, our children, the economy, relationships, and how we look, what other people think of us, terrorism, politics, pain from the past, and or in our unpredictable futures. Okay, our thoughts about these things make us suffer and undermine the happiness we could experience right now if we didn't have the constant voice in our head stirring shit up. Period. Okay. So next, excuse me. Cause number 4 is the negative bias. Okay. So let's go over something else that Dan said. It was another quote. Okay. And it goes on to say, But it was in this moment, lying in bed late at night, that I first realized that the voice in my head, the running commentary that had dominated my field of consciousness since I can remember, was kind of an asshole. Dan Harris, okay? So the human nervous system has been evolving for 600 million years. Wow. But it still responds the same as our early human ancestors who faced life threatening situations many times a day and simply needed to survive. Okay? Now, to keep our ancestors alive, Mother Nature evolved a brain that routinely tricked them into making three mistakes: over overestimating threats, underestimating opportunities, and underestimating resources for dealing with threats and fulfilling opportunities. Okay, thus evolved the negative bias. Okay, our tendency to react to negative stimuli more intensely than positive. Negative stimuli produced neural activity than equally intense, loud and bright positive ones. They are also perceived more easily and quickly. The brain is like Velcro for negative experiences, but Teflon for positive ones. Period. Okay. So ask yourself, what does the negative bias have to do with thoughts? Okay. So it really means that you are hardwired to overthink, worry, and view situations more low vibrational than they really are in reality. Okay. You see threats as more threatening and challenges as more challenging. Any low vibrational thought that enters your mind feels real, so there is an impulse to accept it as reality, but you are not living in a cave. Okay, facing life threatening situations daily. I mean, and this does not take away from anyone that's going through anything, any kind of trauma or abuse. That was not for you. Okay, trigger warning, excuse me. So you may be hardwired to think low vibrational, but you don't have to accept this predisposition. Okay? So there's an alternative to simply identifying with the next thought that pops into your consciousness. You know, that is alternative mindfulness. Okay? So mindfulness can be practiced in the most mundane activities, and it can be fostered through specific exercises that are provided throughout, you know, the lesson that we're talking about today. It just can be practiced. So mindfulness requires retraining your brain to stay out of the mental clutter from the future and focus instead on the present moment. When you are mindful, you are no longer attached to your thoughts. You are simply present in whatever you're happening to be doing. So you're not using the, like, say for instance, like if you have a relationship with someone, say for instance, if you like, I'm gonna get back with this person, you're actually being present in that relationship. You're not using past insecurities, you're not using the past trauma, you're not using whatever happened to make you guys break apart as a tool to be present in that relationship. Now you don't do that at all. That was a great example of alternative alternative method to declutter the mind, which is mindfulness. Okay, so changing your thinking is not easy. I just want to point that out. I know I made it seem so easy. um Building, like as with building any other habit, decluttering your mind requires practice, patience, and the willingness to start small, then grow from there. Okay, so it's important that we're going to go over 4 more habits that you can use to declutter your thoughts, and then we're going to wrap it up. Okay, and it's going to help you to retrain your brain with these 4 steps, and I hope that you use those steps to enhance your mental clarity and things of that nature. So there's this quote by Feet, not Han. Okay, feelings come and go like clouds in the windy sky. Consciousness breathing is my anchor. Conscious breathing is my anchor. Excuse me. Now, even though we take about 20,000 breaths a day, you probably don't think about your breathing very often. Okay? Your brain adjusts your breathing to the needs of your body automatically. When you're climbing stairs or going for a run, you don't have to think, I better breathe deeper and harder to get more oxygen to my muscles. It just happens because we're hardwired for our brain to do so, okay? To adjust your breathing to your body changing needs, sensors in your brain, blood vessels, muscles, and lungs handle the job for you. However, whenever you want to take over, you have that power. You can slow down your breathing. You can change your breath from chest to abdomen. You can even make your breath shallow or deep. Okay, you're in control. A change in breathing is often the first sign that our thoughts are overwhelming and stressful. When we feel anxious, depressed, rushed, or upset, we may experience rapid breathing or shortness of breath. Our modern lifestyles and job settings also contribute to improper shallow breathing. Period. Okay. Now, unfortunately, we are excuse me. Ouch. We are sedentary most of the day. We're just sitting there. So it's no need for us to breathe deeply the way our ancestors did in order to hunt, gather, farm, and perform other manual labor, right? So sitting behind our desk or slumped on the couch watching TV, we have developed a habit of short and shallow breathing. We're in a hurry, rushed, or breathing. Our breathing follows suit with quick, nervous breaths, okay? When we are stressed, anxious, or focused on a problem, our bodies contract, we bend forward with our heads down and arms together and muscles tensed. You know, and I know for a fact, like having an anxiety attack, the first thing you do is bend over. Like you lean forward and you touch your knees. Like you almost like it's like instinctual that you grab your knees or you just start looking at the floor. Because it's like along with all that feeling comes nausea, nervousness, shaking and stuff like that. Um, yeah. So all those postures constrict breathing. Okay. So when we are absorbed with stress and worry, the muscles that move, the thorax, and control inhalation and muscular tensions clamp down like a vice to restrict exhalation. And we forget to breathe altogether. Period. We do. Most people lose their breath when they're going through periods of intense anxiety and worry and stuff like that, and they can't breathe. You know, and that's why we call them anxiety attacks because it really attacks your breathing. Okay, so you may not pay much attention to your breathing and your posture, but simply becoming more aware of how you breathe, you foster a calmer state of mind and body. Okay, so starting to pay attention to your start paying attention to your breathing, and simply become more aware of how you're taking in and releasing air throughout your day. So just focus on deeper breathing. Like it's like and one of the best ways to detach from negative thoughts and gain control over your mind is through slow, deep, rhythmic breathing. This is focused breathing. It stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing your heart rate, relaxing your muscles, calming the mind, and normalizing brain function. Okay, this is why I'm saying to do these things because it literally has a great impact on your health. Okay, in general. But in the moment, if you're having thoughts that are not good for you, that deep breathing will definitely reframe the thoughts and calm you down and stuff like that. Um, woo, excuse me. Deep breathing helps you feel connected to your body, and it actually shifts your awareness away from worrying and quiets the inner dialogue that you have inside your brain. The physiological changes that occur with deep breathing are referred to as relaxation response. So I call it RR. Okay. So relaxation response is related, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Whew, lost my train of thought. The relaxation response is a physical state of deep rest that changes the physical and emotional responses to stress. Okay? And the opposite of the fight or flight response. So it's the RR. Like people always talk about fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight. And this is where we get into surface level healers and different things of that nature. Because no one ever talks about the relaxation response. Okay? So, one more time, the relaxation response is a physical state of being of deep rest that changes the physical and emotional responses to stress and the opposite of fight or flight response, okay? It's the opposite of that. So, deep breathing has many well-researched health benefits, okay? So let's go over the summary. I love going over summaries about deep breathing because a lot of people are like, oh, that stuff don't work. That stuff is the devil. Just breathing is the devil. People are crazy anyway. That's a whole nother story for another day. But yeah, so um when you are deep breathing, it boosts nitric oxide, a powerful immune boosting molecule produced in the sinuses during nose breathing, okay? It improves the quality of your blood through eliminating toxins and increasing oxygenation, okay? Now, it also assists in the digestion and assimilation of food through a more efficient stomach and digestive system. It increases the health and function of the nervous system by increased oxygenation. It improves the function of the abdominal organs and the heart through increased circulation. It helps improve, it helps prevent respiratory problems as the lungs become stronger and more powerful. It reduces blood pressure and helps prevent heart disease as the heart becomes more efficient and stronger and the workload on the heart is reduced. It assists in weight control as extra oxygen burns excess fat more efficiently. Yes, your breathing even helps you lose weight, babes. Okay? Keep that in mind. So, even practicing a few minutes of deep abdominal breathing every day, you are building a lifelong habit proven through years of research and testing to clear your mind, reduce stress, and promote relaxation of the mind and the body. Okay? So, practicing several times a day, it helps you take a break. And I also like to remind people that you can do it right before bed too. Like it would be wise to do some deep breathing before bed because you're taking your body. It's like taking your body down, like a countdown. Before resting and getting your body in a state of peacefulness, of calmness. Okay, you're not overthinking before you go to bed, so you won't suffer from possibly nightmares or waking right back up an hour later and having insomnia or things of that nature. Okay, so that's imperative as well. So when you actually develop a regular practice of deep breathing at a specific time of day, as focused breathing is the foundation for a meditative practice. If you establish a 5 to 10 minute breathing habit, you can easily use that habit as a trigger and starting point for your meditation practice. Okay. So, with that being said, this was our weekly rum, and we will catch you next week when we get into some more steps on how deep breathing affects you, why you should be practicing more deep breathing, and decluttering the mind and reframing some more thoughts. We're going to get into that next week, but I really appreciate y'all stopping by. If you hear this somewhere and you're hanging out on one of these apps, then share it. Share it, give it a like, write some comments, share your story. With that being said, I am Empress Rain Nicole. This was our weekly rum on decluttering the mind, reframing automatic thoughts. And let me tell you the author of this book right now. Yes, it's actually a book, guys. S.J. Scott and Barry Davenport. Two people wrote this book, okay? And I have a PDF if you need it, so just hit me up. With that being said, I am your host, Empress Rena Nicole of Sustainable Relationships on Clubhouse, Divine Intervention Show and Podcast, uh, The Love Experiences, and RenaNicole.com. With that being said, I'll check y'all out next week. And thank you so much for showing up to Divine Intervention Show and Podcast. This was our first episode in a very long time, and this will be up on Spotify within the day. Peace, y'all, and take care.